the hardest part of that ring.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
For the hardest part of the ring.
Hello, everybody, and welcome
The hardest part of the ring.
Hello and welcome to episode 140 of Hardest Part of the Ring, the podcast where four friends get together to celebrate the wonder of professional wrestling. My name is Adam and I'm joined by three other guys. 3 + 1 = 4. Maths. Sam, hello.
Hello.
Hello to John.
Hi, guys.
And hello, Brett.
Hello.
How are you guys doing? It's been 2 weeks. We're going to have to get used to this now with fortnightly. It always feels like a long time, right?
I know. It's very strange. It's like I haven't seen you guys forever. And then...
It was weird last Tuesday. I was like, I've got nothing to do tonight.
Yeah. Are we saying that we've now got loads of free time and we fancy doing some extra podcasts? I've got a lot of straight faces there on the Skype call, listeners. Brett.
Yes.
Sorry, I just thought that you hadn't had a chance to say anything.
It's all right. I'm dodging my cat at the moment. He's already attacked me twice just before this, so it's going to be fun.
I mean, I just wanted to point out that just before we started the podcast, Brett did say on the Skype call, "I don't want to talk." We think.
Yeah. So you might not hear much from Brett today, but last episode that we did do 2 weeks ago was the top 5 things we'd like to see in wrestling in 2021. Have any of them come true yet?
One of them, right?
Punjabi
so.
prison?
No holograms, no Punjabi prison.
New Japan invading AEW. Can you believe that? I mean, there are probably listeners who are like, yeah, it'd been rumoured for ages.
I know, but lots of stuff is rumoured in wrestling for ages, right? Like CM Punk's been returning for the last 10 years.
And there's a lot of
true.
nonsense that goes on the internet with regards to wrestling.
That's our cutting take on social media and wrestling there. Take that.
Yeah. So go and have a listen to that if you haven't already. I mean, you might be one of those people who's just, it might be 2086 and finally Hardest Part of the Ring have finished the Undertaking series and you're deciding you never listened to them originally and now you're binging them all and we're referencing out-of-date stuff. So maybe we should just get on
I
with
wonder
it.
if wrestling holograms would be a thing in 2026.
I wonder if
2086
there'll be a planet, let alone a population to fill it.
By 2086, there will be holograms and they'll all be fighting in the Thunderdome, but the Thunderdome will actually be a Punjabi prison.
Yeah. Basically, none of that will make any sense unless you listen to top 5 things we'd like to see in wrestling in 2021. That was episode 139, so go and have a listen if you did miss it. This episode is, of course, the return of The Undertaking. It's the first one that we've done in 2021, and it is The Undertaking, Volume 7. So what is The Undertaking? This is the bit where Sam jumps in and I sit back and relax.
Thanks, Adam. The Undertaking is a retrospective review of the pay-per-view events The Undertaker has participated in. It follows his career from 1990 to 2020 and provides a snapshot of the wrestling landscape at the time. Previously on The Undertaking. Can we get the Law and Order dun-dun?
Oh, I'm doing it. I'm Googling it after this pod. We're getting that sound effects. It'd be great. We'll probably get sued, but who cares? It'll be worth it.
Previously on The Undertaking, we would see early glimpses of The Undertaker's patriotic side as he would become part of the All-American Survivor Series team to take on the evil foreign fanatics. Why were they evil, you ask?
Why were they evil?
Because they were foreign and in wrestling, and that's as good enough of a reason to make a team evil. But following on from this, Undertaker would go on to feud with Yokozuna at the 1994 Royal Rumble and fight him in a casket match, where The Undertaker would get attacked by basically the entire heel mid-card. This is some incredible watching. I really recommend going back and watching it for anyone who hasn't seen that. But amazingly enough, this leads to a defeated Undertaker maybe ascending into heaven. It's wrestling ambiguity at its finest.
That was
but
great.
what we are certain of is that if you want to listen to four people discuss how bonkers this whole thing is, go listen to episode 132, where we go into excruciating detail reviewing this match. As for what happened next, well, it really doubles down on the crazy, starting with match 16 of the Deadman's career, SummerSlam 94 versus the fake Undertaker at the United Center, Chicago, Illinois.
Oh, yeah! Welcome everybody to the brand new United Center. Welcome everybody to Chi-Town, the Windy City. Welcome everybody to Chicago, Illinois. Welcome everybody to the premier event we call SummerSlam. And it's all brought to you by the new generation of the World Wrestling Federation. And nobody does it better than the WWF. Oh yeah. Buckle your seatbelts because it's gonna be a bumpy ride. And I promise you, and I guarantee you, it's gonna be the most electric, the most fun that you've ever had in your entire life.
How good was it to have Macho Man doing the intro?
Amazing.
Did you guys watch that, by the way?
Everyone
I always watch
loves
the
Macho
intro of all the pay-per-views, even if we just watch one match of it. I love the little video package for the intros for these pay-per-views, especially the old ones.
Watching the intro to this has made me realise that if I could trade my voice with anyone in the world, it would be Macho Man, wouldn't it?
Start smoking 30 cigarettes a day and then
Do you
you'll
reckon,
get there.
it must be so hard living with that voice every day, though, I reckon.
It definitely got like away from character to awful in later years as well.
I think it's pretty good. Like, I think it's up there as number one. I don't think there's enough white powder in the world to get me to that point. So
I reckon we could find it sound that way. It sounds like a challenge. It's the one impression I wish I could nail. I wish I could really nail like a really good Macho Man.
Can we hear your average?
No.
Shame.
post-pod treat for you all there. We'll get a John Macho Man impression by the end of this.
Yeah.
We wouldn't love wrestling if it wasn't for the outright bizarre. And this is peak bizarre right here. So, following his defeat to the Yokozuna at the Royal Rumble, The Undertaker would disappear from WWF and wouldn't be heard of again until May, where random people and absolutely not paid extras were sending tips into WWF where they had just spotted The Undertaker out in public doing general bits and pieces.
You know, the most unbelievable thing happened the other day. Sitting here and stopped traffic for a funeral procession. The hearse goes by, what falls out the back of the coffin, right in the middle of the street. It opens up, the guy sits up, it's The Undertaker. He gets up, looks around a little bit, and walks off over into the park and disappears. Unbelievable.
This would continue until May 30th, where Ted DiBiase would basically reveal his latest recruit to his $1 million corporation, making contact with the missing Undertaker. And yeah, these weird vignettes would basically continue until July 4th, where The Undertaker would make his big return under the management of the $1 Million Man, but something wasn't right. The Deadman comes out to a slightly muted reaction. And at first you're kind of like, okay, maybe the crowds are just stunned that he's aligned himself with Ted DiBiase and where's Paul Bearer? It could also be the fact that The Undertaker was about 6 inches shorter and had different tattoos. So
Was he really 6 inches? He didn't look 6 inches short. That seems...
I think he did, though.
I think
Definitely
it's close.
weighed
Yeah,
quite
at that
a lot
beginning
less.
bit.
I thought he was pretty good, though. I thought the way he moved around the ring, I mean, we'll talk about his performance as a whole, obviously, shortly, but the look, it was right. But that's probably because he just borrowed some of the Undertaker's clothes.
To me, I actually thought he looked like Seth Rollins dressed as The Undertaker.
Also, like tattoo-wise, I feel like they had very similar janky tattoos, especially on the forearm.
Do you know what? Like, in the bigger scheme of things, for 1994, they do not do a bad job. But
No.
as The Undertaker squashes this jobber on Raw, you kind of can see in the background a bunch of wrestling fans who are far too old to be wrestling fans, by the way. I say, working on
Is
a
that podcast?
Yeah. But you can see
very
glass
young,
houses
guys.
there, I think, guys.
Yeah. But the listeners don't know that we're all in our early 20s.
Yeah.
Nice,
yeah,
Adam.
yeah.
Nice.
Man, I love the 2000s. Woo.
But you can see in the crowd these people start to realise they're pointing and they're whispering to each other, and this one old guy is going nuts because this Undertaker is not the Undertaker. And
right. So you've watched some of this, haven't you, Sam?
yeah.
So did people really believe that Ted DiBiase had found the Undertaker, or did people suspect that it was all bollocks from the start?
I think what happened was Ted DiBiase led everyone to believe that he had found the Undertaker, and people were expecting to see the Undertaker. But I think from the get-go, he had a few dark matches as the fake Undertaker, and then his debut on Raw, obviously it was pre-taped back then, there is very clearly a crowd reaction of, that's not the Undertaker.
Yeah, I remember like this period watching it originally, and I feel like I didn't catch like why it happened, but I just remember being like, why have they changed the Undertaker? Who's this fake guy? And like, I remember kids at school going, no, it's the Undertaker, and I was like, it's not the Undertaker. It's just not.
Also, Brett, you would have been 2 years old?
Yeah, obviously going back on our previous
In your early 20s, yeah.
God's sake, Brett.
The amazing thing about this is not, I think, the first time that WWF would attempt to make fake wrestlers for much more nefarious means later on. But
Time-wise, does anyone know if this is pre or post the fake Razor and Diesel?
I think this is pre-fake Razor and Diesel, because I think Razor and Diesel would go on
Oh,
to
yeah,
join
actually, they're
WCW.
still in it, aren't they? They're
Yeah.
actually on the Survivor Series. Yeah, must be.
However,
if you're in the cheap seats for this, you could believe that's the Undertaker.
Yeah, when
Well-
Sam was saying it came out to no reaction, I was like, how would they know it wasn't the real Undertaker?
well, that's exactly why I was thinking, like, are they just a bit surprised that he's teamed up with Ted DiBiase? It doesn't really make sense after he ascends off into heaven to, I don't know, go hang out with people up there. And then he comes back working
No
for Ted
wrestlers up there,
DiBiase.
mate. There you are.
maybe they think, like, he looks a bit smaller or something. Has he been like really ill? Or, they're perhaps when he comes out, they're
Really
worried
bad
about
stomach
why
flu.
he's actually been missing.
Definitely so. But the best part is after this crowd reaction, you start hearing a crowd chant. Do you guys remember crowd chants?
Wow.
He's a fake. Just the crowd chanting, he's a fake. 30 years ago, this wasn't going to fool anyone. I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It also probably didn't help the fact that halfway through the match, The Undertaker drops a pretty sweet drop toe hold. And it's really good, but it's also like, have you ever seen The Undertaker do a drop toe hold?
Yeah. Interesting.
Following this match on Raw, Paul Bearer would come to the ring to try and entice the fake Undertaker back to his services, but clearly this just wasn't going to happen. And with that, the feud more or less kicked off with Paul Bearer saying he would bring his real Undertaker to take on Ted DiBiase's fake Undertaker at SummerSlam.
So obviously at SummerSlam we had DiBiase come out, do an intro, bring in the Undertaker. So we basically had to listen to the Undertaker theme twice in full, slow walk in, which was slightly painful.
Yeah.
But the entrance for the real Taker with, should we talk about what actually happened?
So, yeah, I mean, you say twice, I say we had to listen to this entrance 3 times.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I suppose you're right, actually.
Because Ted DiBiase comes out and introduces, we're going to call him the Underfaker, or the Faker, for clarity for the rest of this podcast.
Okay.
Introduces the Faker.
Could have told us that beforehand.
I'm
stressing out now. I'm going to mess up. Oh, God.
That's all good. Paul Bearer then makes his entrance. I believe this is the first appearance of the Druids.
Ooh, that's a good shout.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. It's the first I can
I
remember.
kind of think they were at the last one when he ascended. Because who brought the coffin to the ring?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Oh, no, I think they just wheeled it down, didn't they? Yeah, this must be first Druids.
I think, aren't Druids like ancient Celtic? I think they're around like hundreds of years ago, guys.
No, this is it. It's the first time.
Okay.
Let's be factually correct on this pod, shall we? Because that's what we find most important, is that we're right with all our facts.
It's all we've got left, Brett.
And so Paul Bearer then makes his entrance and he opens the coffin, and surely all of us are thinking the same thing here, which is, I can't wait to see the Undertaker come out of a coffin.
Yeah, he's going to sit up. It's going to be great.
Big coffin as well.
Brett, what does Paul Bearer bring out of the coffin?
an urn.
A comically massive urn.
Yeah.
Way bigger
No.
than it was. It's huge.
As Vince said in one of the commentaries, his new, bigger and better urn. I mean, I don't know how an urn is better, but it was big. Well, it's got a torch.
It's bigger.
In it, that's why.
Yeah, it had to fit a massive torch in it. That's why.
Indeed. So
It was great though. I was all for the bigger and better urn.
Paul Bearer pulls out, I want to say like a Trigger Happy TV mobile phone style urn. But that would age me
It's not.
beyond my apparent early 20s. But he brings out a massive urn that has a spotlight in it, maybe?
It's pretty powerful. It does look pretty cool.
How many lumens do you think we're talking?
Many lumens.
Yeah, it was. I thought that bit was really cool. Actually, I thought because they had the whole lighting effects, and again, and with Paul Bearer obviously looking freaky, and him lifting off the urn and it having the spotlight sort of going up into the crowd. Again, it's another time where I thought if there are any kids, there's going to be some kids in that crowd that have been scarred for life from that, absolutely terrified, thinking, oh my God, he's summoning the Undertaker. Where is the Undertaker going to come from? And that was it for them.
And sure enough, he takes the lid off, gets the light, and that is apparently the Undertaker's soul. And that summons the Undertaker from the gorilla position, where you would expect him to come from.
Paul Bearer commanding the spirit of the Undertaker. And oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh!
He's moving now. Jerry the King Lawler. Now that's the Undertaker.
I've said it before, McMahon, but I really didn't believe it, but there are two Undertakers!
Yeah, they should have done the whole. Put the house lights down, cut to him being in the ring, right?
Or they could have I sort of did miss that Paul Bearer could have focused his light on the gorilla
entrance,
position,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Because then that's him shooting out his soul.
Yeah,
And him appearing at that point. I mean, for as simple effect as it was, the theatrics and the look of all this, it was great. I was all for it.
So the entrances, we get the Undertaker, we get the Faker. They stand off in the ring, and basically we have a Street Fighter mirror match ready to happen.
Even with the Street Fighter theme, they were proper video game characters, because the only difference between them was the accessories. Like the Faker had the grey collar and spats on his not spats, the kick pad type things, and the proper Taker was purple.
Yeah.
All black. I thought that was cool.
Pretty great. And the match begins.
what a load of shit.
It's not his best match, is it?
This is the worst match we've seen, I reckon. Not ever, but on the Undertaking.
Yeah.
This has got my worst score easily so far.
It just starts off with the Faker throwing the
slowest.
slowest punch I've ever seen that Taker sort of grabs. It was so slow.
This match is pretty awful. There's a lot of slow movement, and of course you kind of expect that, but it doesn't work in mirror matches. And
Do you know what the worst thing was about this whole thing? I thought it was as if it happened in WrestleMania 2020. It was absolutely dead.
The crowd, yeah, really,
the
really
crowd. And in fact, I've got a little clip that we can put in now.
This is very, very strange.
Come on, Undertaker!
Very, very strange.
Oh, wait a minute, look at this! Oh,
And
yes,
going to the
McMahon.
top. And wait a minute, no. Paul Bearer's Undertaker. Was he by the throat? And that will certainly take its toll. And
Look at him!
the sit-up.
The Undertaker sits right up. Rises up, if you will.
I think at one point Vince has to try and explain it away, and he's like, "Oh, this capacity crowd are in awe." And then he says, "There's virtual silence the virtual silence of this capacity crowd, because you can't not reference it. It's so quiet, and you never. I mean, from my memory of doing rewinds and obviously all these other Undertaking matches, you don't get this.
No,
you don't tend to.
This
get
was
big
also
crowds.
the main event of the pay-per-view.
It's the main event.
There was never many like chants back in the day, but there was always like a constant hubbub of noise.
This
always.
is very, very dead. The crowd are not into this at all.
But I mean, Sam, you were probably going to get to this, and I'm sorry, we're constantly interrupting your well prepared notes and things. But the reason why this was so dead is because beforehand they'd had an absolute barn burner of a match between Bret and Owen Hart, which was it was a half-hour cage match, and it's obviously a very well-rated match. And a part of me wishes I'd just watched that as well, and then maybe I would have understood a bit more. But obviously, the crowd are exhausted and they peaked.
A fun fact about that
shit
as well is that cage match went on 10 minutes longer than it should have, and the Undertaker was absolutely fuming.
What, so they had to cut 10 minutes out of this match?
I think Bret Hart was looking out for all of us there.
Yeah.
Good old
So the whole crowd were checking their watches, thinking, "I really need to go."
I mean, ultimately, this match is a series of just striking each other and sort of one person doing the Undertaker's moves really well and the other person doing the Undertaker's moves not quite as well.
I mean, even Taker did a clothesline, which was so weak. It was it was almost like he was going up to put his arm around fake Taker.
And there was that massive botch, and I don't even know what they were looking to do at that point.
It's where they were running the rope. Well, he threw
running
Taker,
the ropes.
Yeah,
and one
and
sort
tried
of
to lift
lift
him
Oh my
up.
goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
They just sort of like fell back into the other side of the ring and tried to sell something, but like I don't know what they were selling.
Faker sends Undertaker into the ropes, and when he comes back, he goes for what looks like it's going to be a flapjack,
Oh yeah, maybe that's what they're going for.
but then he just loses his footing, takes a few steps back, and plonks the Undertaker neck first onto the top rope. It looks very rough, and
Yeah.
again, doesn't
Yeah.
quite work out. Luckily, the match doesn't go on for too long, and
Thank goodness for Bret Hart.
whilst Faker sets the real Undertaker up for a tombstone, Undertaker pulls off a cool reversal, we're going to say.
Yeah, I mean, just before that, the fake Taker did actually tombstone Undertaker.
Yeah. There was a decent choke slam, I thought.
Yeah.
There was a really decent choke slam, and then I was really surprised that he did get a tombstone in, because I just thought they wouldn't, like, Taker wouldn't allow that. Like, he's not tombstoning me. I thought a reversal was coming, but no, he hit it. He sat up.
Yeah, I mean, there's one point of this match I really like, which is at one point in time, Undertaker smacks Faker in the face, and previously up to that point, there had been no selling each other's moves, kind of doing this zombie thing. And then there's one point when Faker reacts as if kind of he's just a normal wrestler getting hit. And I think kind of more of that in this match would have gone a long way to kind of indicate the difference between the Undertaker and an imposter. But even to this day, there's an ambiguity around the fact as to whether the fake Undertaker in kayfabe was meant to be another part of the Undertaker, or was just a fake dude working for Ted DiBiase. It's not really known, because following on from this match, and we've actually neglected this entirely, is everyone's favourite actor, Leslie Nielsen, had been on the case of this missing Undertaker and fake Undertaker debacle. Throughout all of SummerSlam was going to vignettes of him searching for the fake Undertaker with lots of jokes.
There I was, backstage at SummerSlam, hot on the trail of the Undertaker. Suddenly I heard a voice from beyond.
Hey, buddy, you can't go there. Let's see some ID.
First of all, my name's not Buddy.
And they closed the show with them looking for the fake Undertaker now in a casket, only to find the casket is empty. So
Fake Taker's still out there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, either that or as soon as he got to the back, he was given a P45 and said, "Thank you very much. We're not going to continue this angle."
Do you where did this come from? Was it like a on the fly storytelling? Like, Taker's gone up into heaven. Shit, what do we do?
Yeah, it seemed weird. What
did Vince think we need a Taker for ratings or something? I don't know, because he obviously was a big, straight away he was a big star for them. It was just such a weird fucking storyline.
My understanding was that basically, following on from the Royal Rumble, they wanted to have Undertaker booked exclusively against big guys, but they kind of hit a point where they didn't really have anyone for him to go up against after the Yoko match. And so this was kind of like a bit of a holding pattern for him whilst they kind of developed some new stars for him to bury.
So just give him time off and then...
Yeah.
Well,
strange. It's just weird going from that Yoko feud into this and then back into the Yoko feud.
Yeah, it was quite the misstep.
Should we shine a light on the fake Taker?
So Brian Lee, the fake Undertaker.
I read that apparently they were actually planning on keeping this going for a bit, and that it was going to keep feuding for a few more weeks in some form, which I guess is why he wasn't in the casket at the end. But after SummerSlam, they just thought, nah. But Brian Lee he's still around. He's 54. And he actually came back to WWE a couple of years later as Chains with a Z.
In that biker gang, wasn't he?
Yeah, with Crush.
Imagine that.
And he was only there for a year.
His photo on Wikipedia actually looks a lot like The Undertaker, I think.
Yeah.
He does look a bit like him.
6'7".
It's tall.
Nice.
No.
I mean, I quite like the fact that he was The Undertaker and then he became a biker. And then the real Undertaker
my word,
decides to
striking
become...
similarity there. Before we watched this pay-per-view, there's only two things I knew about Faker. He's one of those wrestlers I've heard a lot about through other media, but I've never watched this match before, haven't desired to. I'm glad I didn't. But the two things I knew about before going into this was they're actually really good friends, and he was at The Undertaker's wedding.
Ooh, okay.
They are no longer friends because they fell out.
But Undertaker is also no longer married to that first wife, so...
I think it had something to do with the wife, like there was a argument of, like, I'm speculating, but...
Exciting. I mean,
those are the two things I knew about Faker.
It feels like if the Undertaker was as important as he should have been, he may have turned up on Undertaker's retirement show, but no, wasn't to be.
Like a missed opportunity. That would have
been great, yeah. Although most modern fans would have absolutely no idea what was going on.
It's just weird that someone who is quite famous in wrestling history, like the Faker, like the idea. Like, obviously, we've heard about it before we watched it, but how little involvement he actually had, like just this one pay-per-view match.
Honestly, it's such a strange one. The whole feud is carried by Ted DiBiase as well. Like, ultimately, it could have been any 6'7" redhead, dead man looking person. But yeah, it was Chains. He had his one pay-per-view match, and then WWF quietly shelved the whole feud and would never reference it again.
That's not like Vince, is it? To, make a rash decision.
And so we move on to the scoring, taken care of now by Brett.
We've given Brett extra responsibilities, guys. He's not just reading out the email address and the socials now. This is a big deal. You smashed that quiz that you did, and now we've given you extra stuff.
You've given me a spreadsheet, which is like, as much as you all talk about how we all love spreadsheets, I'm the only one that hates spreadsheets and has no idea what I'm doing. So this could go very wrong.
Okay.
Well, we might quietly shelve your spreadsheet work after this. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll just quietly shelve Brett. So, the match. I take it you want us to give that a score first, Brett?
Hang on. Okay, so let's hear our scores for the match. Let's start with Adam.
1 out of 5.
1. Harsh beans. Input that. Okay, I'm going to go to John.
I'm also going to go 1.
1. Oh my days. Sam.
I'm going to go 1.5. I do like how silly it is.
Sam also loves 0.5.
Extra work for Brett there. You can hear him typing away. I love
Dear
it.
me.
2 extra keys.
Yeah, okay. And I'm going to give 1.5 as well, actually. I'm going to go on
Yes,
but
Brett.
purely because of the entertainment of the new urn with its, laser beam out of it.
Maybe we're too harsh.
That was impressive.
And the luscious blue light that Taker was drowned in when he arrived.
Yeah. You're all about the aesthetics.
Okay, I am. So that gives the match an average of 1.25. So
Worst yet.
Poor.
Taker's performance, Adam, what do you give it?
1.5. I mean, it's not as bad as the match, but it's going to be one of the worst ones for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Adam will sync with this. I'm going 1.5 as well.
Yeah.
Sam.
I was actually going to go for a flat 1 on this one. It's not his best.
Flat 1.
So are you saying the performance of Faker gave it that extra point?
I'm giving the extra half a point to Paul Bearer and his giant comical urn.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going with Sam. This was a clunky match, so actually match-wise, this gets a 1. So again, we've got an average of 1.25.
Are you going to add another column so we can score Fake Taker? Because he's getting a 5 for me. And I never give top marks.
It's a fake mark.
I actually genuinely think his performance was pretty damn good at pretending to be the Taker.
There were moments where he was especially on the outside of the ring, where I thought he was Taker, actually.
And how he hit the ropes.
Yeah.
When he was running the ropes, he hit the ropes the same way Taker does, real deep, leans right into it.
Well, whilst we may not be scoring the under Faker, we will be going to Adam now for everyone's favourite part of the podcast. It's time for an Undertaker fact.
You want to hear an interesting Undertaker
Fact.
All right, this could be a bit of a spoiler in terms of the future Undertaking matches.
Okay. He
But
loses to
not
Shawn
really.
Michaels.
It's really not too bad. But are you ready? The Undertaker has never lost a match via submission.
Oh, never.
Get out. That's a great fact.
Never. He has, of course, lost a number of matches in his career. Not as many as most, but he has lost quite a few matches through a number of means. But he has never tapped out to a submission move.
Oh.
However,
Triple H.
he has, however, tapped out on a couple of occasions. But they haven't led to him losing the match.
Oh.
So we've seen him tap out, but he's never actually lost
That's
by a
interesting.
submission. I'm going to tell you about those 2 moments.
Right, okay.
Although, Sam, can you pick? Could you either?
I was going to say,
guess
I
any
would
of
actually say that kind of every match from about 2014 onwards, I've seen The Undertaker give up in.
them? Doesn't count. Doesn't count. He still walked away with the win most of the time. So, back in 2002, in a match on SmackDown, Kurt Angle had a match with The Undertaker, and he had The Undertaker in a triangle choke. And as Taker tried to fight out of it, he unknowingly had Angle's shoulders pinned to the mat. And he tapped just as the ref counted 3. Ooh. The match was ruled a draw, and Undertaker retained his title.
Oh, that's a great finish. I love that fit.
I mean, that sounds like a really
it
good
does,
match.
That does sound good, doesn't it? SmackDown 2002. You're going to have to go back and watch the whole year just to find it. Or you could Google it. And then the second one was obviously, I say obviously, a lot of people won't know this. I didn't even know this. I'm reading it and pretending I knew it. Pretending these are facts coming from my brain and not the internet. But Taker also tapped out to the beast Brock Lesnar during their encounter at SummerSlam 2015.
Ooh.
In this case, the referee didn't notice, but the timekeeper saw it and rang the bell. That led to a whole lot of confusion before the referee announced to restart the match.
Oh.
The timekeeper is getting ideas above his station.
You can't get involved in this. Can you?
Yeah.
I thought they have to wait for the ref to, tell them to ring the bell.
disgraceful behaviour.
Sacked.
Mad, hey?
That match has a great moment where they both sit up and just stare at each other and start laughing.
Some other wrestlers, classic wrestlers who never tapped out, include Scott Steiner, Yokozuna, The Ultimate Warrior, Andre the Giant, Rowdy Roddy Piper, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Why is Hacksaw Jim Duggan not tapping out?
But before we exit the Undertaker fact section, I have like a little bonus. It's kind of a quiz. Do you three have any guesses at any current WWE wrestlers who have never lost via submission?
Ooh. Current WWE wrestlers who have never lost by a submission?
Yeah.
There
are 4 of them.
All right. Finn Balor.
One guess each. You've lost. You've lost your guess. No.
Roman
Reigns is correct. Well done, John. Brett, you got a guess?
Current. No, I don't know. I'll go Roderick Strong.
No. The 4 are, and this kind of makes sense, big guys. They don't want to make look weak. Braun Strowman. Samoa Joe.
Oh, that's weird.
I mean, we're playing it fast and loose with the word current WWE wrestler.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's still employed. I mean, this one, the last one. Obviously, I've said Roman Reigns.
Wrestler
already,
with Braun's case, right?
Goldberg is the other one.
Fuck off.
You started the Undertaker fact part so strong and you finished it so weakly.
Just mentioning Goldberg's name makes me irate.
Well, we had a little quiz there. We had a fact, we had a quiz. It was good. I enjoyed the section, and that is the end
That was
of
a good
the
fact,
Undertaker
Adam.
fact.
Good fact, Adam.
Section. Thanks, guys.
You want to hear an interesting
Undertaker fact.
Match 17 versus Yokozuna at Survivor Series 1994. A casket match, but with a difference because we now have special guest referee Chuck Norris.
Was he a referee?
Ringside enforcer, I would say.
Spectator, some would say.
Yeah.
Taking place at the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas.
State of Texas! Welcome everyone to San Antonio! Welcome to the Freeman Coliseum! And welcome to the World Wrestling Federation's answer to Hoss and Little Joe right here on the Ponderosa.
With the fake Undertaker quietly ushered out the door and normality seemingly restored, the Undertaker was free to pursue vengeance on Yokozuna. And we're better than the untelevised WWF Heart Attack House Show Tour.
The Heart Attack. As in Tony Hart?
No, as in Bret and Stu Hart.
Okay, gotcha. I was like, this is a crossover?
You're not allowed to mention Tony Hart because then some eagle-eared listeners will remember that famous segment that we had for Brett's Heartbeat, which we had once.
I think we covered all that in
jingle
that
for that
segment, though.
I made a jingle.
Yeah, The Undertaker and Yokozuna would basically go on a 2-month house show tour in a casket match every night with The Undertaker defeating Yokozuna, getting revenge.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They were pushing this hard on Raw as well, which is wild considering like how this all plays out. So WWF, because WWF decided to spoil it in the early 90s, we're spoiling it for you now. Taker gets his revenge. But we're not here to talk about the Heart Attack Tour. It's just an interesting side point here. But once they had that match down...
Apt name as well.
Yeah. Although actually Yoko died of a pulmonary emboly or something like that. Basically lung in the fluid. Not great.
Lung in the fluid sounds really... I mean, that sounds like a crazy illness. How do you get a lung? Like, well, a whole lung just got into some of his bodily fluids.
Yes. Let's stick with that. The man liked to eat. Once they had that match down, it was time to take it to TV, and Survivor Series was the place. And the only way to stop a repeat of the Royal Rumble casket match debacle was to hire a special guest referee in quotation marks there, the most important internet phenomenon of 2005 and noted Daniel Bryan lookalike, Chuck Norris.
Oh my God, he did look like Daniel Bryan.
The great thing about this Chuck Norris coming out is it reminded me of all the Chuck Norris jokes that went around in 2007 or 2006, 2007. Everybody was making jokes that involved Chuck Norris.
Yep.
Do you want to hear some?
Yes. I looked some up before we did this as well.
There were a few that I really enjoyed that, guys, you could now put into your day-to-day life and just replace Chuck Norris with, anybody, your mate, whatever. There's some good sort of punchlines here. Now he struggles to find the good ones. Chuck Norris lost his virginity before his dad did. I quite like that one.
Decent.
Chuck Norris doesn't read books. He stares them down until he gets the information he wants.
Like it.
There are no steroids in baseball. Just players Chuck Norris has breathed on. These are shit. Carry on, Sam.
Oh man, I'm really enjoying the return of Chuck Norris jokes.
Chuck Norris doesn't shower. He only takes blood baths.
Oh. Cool. Well,
if you spell Chuck Norris in Scrabble, you win forever.
Do you know what?
Please carry on, please.
Yeah, cool. So, yeah, we're going to review Yokozuna versus Undertaker with Chuck Norris as the special guest enforcer. We're going to get this out of the way now. Chuck Norris is a spectator in this match.
Yeah, he's a statue. I mean, the guy doesn't move for most of it. He keeps that pose solid. He's getting no instructions.
And he didn't even put on a black and white stripy top.
Awful.
It's the least he could have done.
When we eventually get round to our top 5 worst special guest referees, we'll be hearing again from the Chuck Man.
Yeah.
The whole way through, I was just hoping he was going to do a really big special kick.
Oh, a roundhouse. I wanted a roundhouse.
Yeah. And he does do a kick, but it's like the pallbearer one. Or it looks terrible. It's
awful.
Yeah. Jean-Claude Van Damme would have given us a roundhouse.
Yeah, and some splits.
Yeah.
Why was he there again? Is it just because this was in Texas?
No, the reason... Well,
it must have been some Walker, Texas Ranger advertising.
Yeah. I remember them advertising that on Sky.
Just like Naked Gun, Leslie Nielsen in the previous one. It certainly seemed to suddenly become let's advertise other TV shows and films and stuff.
It's cool. Right. Leslie Nielsen, Chuck Norris, Bad Bunny. It's just a thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's sad, isn't it? How things have developed.
Very painful to watch. Chuck Norris was introduced as the enforcer to stop a repeat of basically the entire heel mid-card getting involved and going after The Undertaker. And as we discuss the match, we'll learn how that really works out. Spoilers, it doesn't. So yeah, Chuck Norris makes his entrance, and then Yoko makes his entrance, as joined by Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji.
Legends.
The less said about Jim Cornette, the better.
Less said about Mr. Fuji, the better.
But then The Undertaker makes his entrance with Paul Bearer and giant casket.
Massive. Was it the same one?
It was the same one from the last pay-per-view, but I don't think it's the same one that Taker was put in at the last casket match with Yoko.
I think it's the same one. They've just added a lick of paint to the whole thing.
Yeah.
It looks like a prop from a secondary school drama production of Dracula or something like that. It just looks so shoddy.
It's bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
The entire premise of this casket match is a little bit weak, to be honest. But the whole idea around it is that Yokozuna is scared of caskets, which is starting to feel like a fairly familiar story after watching it in the previous casket match and also with the Kamala feud.
I mean, they're scary.
Are you saying this is a rerun?
But, I mean, credit to Yoko is, for a guy who is nearly 600 pounds, my God, can that guy fall out of a ring quickly?
Yeah, honestly, he's great for a guy his size, Yoko. Yeah. Underrated.
Because he is fucking massive.
Yeah, I swear he's bigger than he was last time we saw him as well.
When I saw that this match was 26 odd minutes, I was like, oh my days. But then 10 minutes of that was taken up with Chuck Norris walking in.
Yeah, I had the same thought.
And then there was another 10 minutes. There was another 10 minutes later,
Stress.
which was basically Taker trying to roll Yoko over to the other side of the ring.
Yep.
Oh my god! I've got that. One of my notes is just slow rolling of a very fat man.
It's like about a Yoko match as well that I can't stop looking at, like his arse and thighs. There's so many
thighs.
weird shapes going on there. Like I recognise the anatomy, but not in that context. That's weird.
And the leggings. I was imagining what those leggings are like off.
Yeah.
when he takes them off and he like puts them onto the bed or on the floor, like the waist of those leggings are just unbelievable.
a lot of weird
do
shapes.
you reckon you can buy his leggings on eBay? You carry on.
Oh.
This is classic Adam Googling halfway through an Undertaking episode.
eBay.
So Yokozuna and Taker more or less start with the standard match. Lots of punches, Samoan drop here and there. Undertaker's not going to be picking up Yoko anytime soon, so Undertaker's all clotheslines in this match.
Yeah.
And eventually...
He hit a sweet DDT as well.
He does hit a sweet
He
DDT.
did a great flying off the ropes clothesline followed by a DDT. I think that was in the final sequence, though. That was when it got like fast paced and interesting.
What we would say is that...
matches. No exact matches for Yokozuna leggings on eBay. Devastating.
Yoko and The Undertaker end up in the coffin at one point in time. Just duking it out. And
That was cool.
I've got to be honest, when I was watching that, I was thinking, is Yoko getting out of there? Because that looks like quite a difficult...
Surprisingly agile for a guy his size.
Very agile.
Yeah, and also, even though like we know that coffin's massive, when you're seeing like two guys that size both in it at the same time and fighting, it's like, my God, it's a room. That's like a flat in London that cost you like 500 grand.
Also, so stable because it's been wheeled in. It's not
that's great.
every other piece of WWE furniture just collapses.
What I would say is that we have seen previous of the Undertaker's woodworking carpentry skills, and he obviously knows his stuff.
But maybe this is why the lid looks so flimsy, because all the wood they had is on the underside.
Yeah.
It did make me think that the next casket match I want to see is actually inside a casket, the whole match.
Well,
like a padded velvet room. That would be
It's not
sweet.
a casket, but very soon we are coming up to something quite similar. I won't spoil it, but in about 2 or 3 Undertakings.
Surely that's the only time you can a casket match can be called a casket match if it takes place entirely in a casket.
Yeah.
Like a cage match.
I mean, personally, I don't like casket matches unless the casket ends up being nailed closed at the end.
Wasn't there one where they buried it? I'm sure.
Or burying it's fine as well.
Lots of good casket content here.
Because the problem with this casket match, as we get to the very end, is basically...
I'm sorry, but do you say casket or casket? You need to commit.
I actually swap between the two so I don't get kind of geographically pinned
this is
down.
good for the listeners across the country. Fantastic. Good work. That's good. Well done, Sam. Sorry, carry on.
No, that's all good. So, I mean, we're going to go back in this match anyway. So we got Yoko and Taker basically duking it out. It's more or less a standard match until King Kong Bundy and Bam Bam Bigelow make their way to the ring. And at this point in time, we're believing we're going to see a repeat of the Royal Rumble situation, except kind of Chuck Norris is there this time, so probably not. And Bam Bam Bigelow, King Kong Bundy and Chuck Norris basically have a staring contest for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
All the referees get distracted.
Jeff Jarrett runs out at some point.
That's later, though, I think. It's a bit later.
Oh, is that later?
It is
Double J
later.
comes in.
Right. Okay. So, meanwhile, whilst the stare down is happening, IRS sneaks into the ring. Now, amazingly enough, IRS had already started his feud with The Undertaker during this, repossessing a child's headstone.
Oh, that's slow, isn't it?
Which is dark.
Oh, my God.
He's paying for that with installments anyway. I'm sure you pay for a tombstone outright.
I mean, definitely not my field.
Write in, guys. Write in. Let us know.
But IRS is already feuding with The Undertaker at this point, and he puts Undertaker to sleep.
Wait a minute! Oh no! IRS has a sleeper on the plate on The Undertaker! Chuck Norris is occupied on the outside with Bam Bam and with Bundy! two referees are trying to keep Bam Bam and Bundy at bay. Oh no!
Undertaker's in the casket.
Don't tell me this match is going to end this way. We've seen the last of the Undertaker.
It just puts him in a sleeper, and yeah,
Not a submission though.
not
Even even taking him by surprise, you think, that did make IRS look a bit strong.
He did really strong. Like, he wipes the floor with
Especially 'cause
Taker
he,
really
like, sort-
quickly.
Did a really sort of weak kick to his arse to begin with. I thought he was going to like low blow him or something, but he just
Yeah,
sort of like
me
kicks his
too.
bum.
Whilst all of this is happening, IRS puts Taker in the casket.
He must be looking over at Yoko being like, fuck's sake, Yoko, it took me 2 seconds to do this. Get your ass up here and put this guy in the casket.
My favourite part of the match happens, which is Jeff Jarrett runs out,
Yeah.
Chuck Norris kicks him in the chest, and then the next shot you just see Jeff Jarrett running away.
Yeah, although the kick was lame, but Jeff Jarrett's selling where he like goes over into a headstand and over, that was pretty great.
Yeah,
That was
very
like Mr.
weird.
Perfect, like awesome.
But yes, and so Yoko is trying to... I'm assuming the rules are that Yoko has to close the casket, because like Mr. Fuji and Jim Cornette could have maybe
I was
helped
thinking
out
that.
a bit here.
They were both there. You got Taker in the casket/casket.
Nice.
We need to learn casket in other languages.
Coffin.
And I just thought, why isn't one of those guys? They could close it, and the referee's not looking, so they could close it and say Yoko closed it, but no.
But yeah, for whatever reason, everyone lets Yoko catch his breath, and he heads over to the box, and Taker is not done yet, and he grabs Yoko by the throat. They do get out for a little bit more, and then Yoko puts him in the casket. And that's...
Shuts the lid.
Just before he shuts the lid, Undertaker just reminds everyone how American he is by taking Mr. Fuji's Japanese flag, breaking it over his knee, and putting it into the coffin, and then shutting the lid of the casket.
And he's still getting up, I don't believe it.
The Undertaker now in a boot. Oh, wait a minute. Yoko's in the casket. Yoko's in the casket. Oh, look at this. Into the casket as well. And, oh, my
Oh, he got him! It's all over!
And Chuck Norris, ladies and gentlemen, did his job. And so did the Undertaker.
Can I say, I need a GIF. In fact, it might exist. I should just search for it, but I won't do another search during the pod. I need a GIF of Yoko falling into the casket, because he does it perfectly, doesn't he?
Is
The way he
so
sort of
smooth.
the way he falls and then turns his body and then falls backwards, the perfect fit. He could easily, a couple of inches out, he would have smashed his head, but it looks perfect, and I need a GIF.
I'm really glad that you
Listeners,
said this, because I thought
me a
the
GIF.
same thing when I was watching, is that Yokozuna is the smoothest wrestler since AJ Styles.
Like, really good. It does make you wonder, like, how much must he have been eating? Because he's wrestling every night. He's doing like 20 matches a night, or no, 20 minutes in each match, basically. He's moved a lot in those matches. Like, his cardio must be through the roof, and yet he's still gigantic.
He's far better than he has any right to be.
He wanted to become the biggest wrestler, like the fattest wrestler ever, didn't he? I think.
I can tell you, he was the third fastest youngest wrestler to win the WWF title.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is just kind of cool.
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's a fact. I don't need to look it up. Don't need to verify it. We'll just say it's a fact.
Can
Let's
we
move on to the scoring.
Talk
prep.
about the big question, though. In a real fight between Chuck Norris and the team of Bam Bam and King Kong Bundy, who do you reckon would win?
Chuck Norris.
No, come on, Bam
Bam
Bam,
Bam
and
Bigelow.
King Kong Bundy, come on.
Bam Bam doesn't even need King Kong Bundy there.
I mean, I'm going to go for the movie world, fairy tale land of Chuck Norris. Season.
Outrageous, Brett.
How many people like that do you think Chuck Norris has destroyed in his films? They always put like the action guys like that against giant guys, and they just
but to
destroy
Sam's
them.
point, how many people like that do you think Bam Bam has killed in real life?
How many people with tattoos on their head Do you think Chuck Norris has really come across?
Yeah. I was once talking
living
to a
in
guy
Texas probably quite a lot.
who had a tattoo on his head, and he said during the tattoo, like he couldn't actually see, like it stopped him, temporarily
God.
blinded.
Wow.
No joke, people.
Wow.
So please, if you listen to our podcast, get in contact. Let us know who you think would win in a fight: Bam Bam Bigelow or Chuck Norris.
Just forget King Kong Bundy.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Yeah, he's there for show, isn't he?
Okay. So I'll take over here. What are the scores people think? The match first. Adam, we'll go same order.
I'm going to give this a solid 3. It's
Solid
not
3.
it's not the worst we've seen, and it's not going to be the best we've seen.
God, that's quite high. Okay.
I liked it. I mean, I like it because it had a lot of drama, and Yokozuna, like we say, is much better than he has any right to be, and there was just some nice moments in there.
John,
I was going to go.
I
was going to go 3 as well, but I don't want it, so I'm going to go 3.5. 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5. John's looking over Adam's shoulder at his notes, hoping to pass the exam. Sam.
I'm not as hot on this match just because I feel like we have seen a casket match quite recently with Yoko, which was a lot more entertaining than this. So I've gone for a 2.
Ooh. Okay, yeah, I don't suppose we were that high on the first one.
I think Sam was very high actually on the first. He gave it a 5.
I loved the first one.
5. Okay. Okay. So wow. I mean, I was excited by Chuck Norris being there, but then as little as he actually did, let me down.
Also, no offense, Brett. Can you name one good thing Chuck Norris has ever done?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't like Chuck Norris films. I was all Jean-Claude Van Damme all the way.
Can you name one good thing Bam Bam Bigelow has done?
Chuck Norris ordered a Big Mac at Burger King and got one.
That's a good one. I like that. Okay, so on that, I'm going to give. I'm copying Sam's notes too. Okay. So that gives the match an average score of 2.625.
I think that sounds about right.
Decent.
Yeah.
Decent. Okay, The Undertaker. How does he fare in this match, Adam?
I'm going to go for a 3.25.
3.25. Why does it keep doing? Sorry. There we go. I'm not struggling with a spreadsheet at all. John.
So I'm going to go
3.25.
No, I'm going to go 2 because I actually think everything I like about this match is all down to Yoko.
Yeah, I obviously enjoyed it. Yeah, I don't really know why I've given it that score, but that's why I wrote at the time. So
fair.
Sam,
I'm with John on this. It was a solid 2 performance for me.
Solid 2.
Wow.
I'm gonna make Adam feel like a loner. I'm going 2. I agree with the boys, which makes it an average of 2.3125.
Nice round number.
Thanks, Adam.
Very nice.
Catchy.
So,
Brilliant.
Following his defeat, Yoko would move into a more mid-card position, forming a tag team with Owen Hart.
That's a weird tag team, isn't it? That doesn't work in my head at all.
It's a bit all over the place. He would actually won a couple of tag titles with him. So, you know, they stuck with it.
It's a great hot tag, though, isn't it? I suppose, Yoko. Boom.
That's pretty good. I do love a big guy, small guy tag team. He would continue to wrestle for WWE until 1996 and then would pass away in October 2000 at age 34.
He died in the UK, didn't he? It's like Blackburn somewhere.
Yeah, in Liverpool.
In a hotel.
They thought it was heart failure because he was a 600-pound man, but no, he had fluid in his lungs. And yeah, it's just kind of sad, really.
Yeah, I was reading a thing that
600 pounds.
After this match, he had a bit of a break because he wanted to put on more weight.
I mean, that's a wild decision.
Yeah, it's going against like any doctors. Maybe he thought he'd want to have a go at proper sumo.
I suppose if you want to try and be the most of something, if you want to be the Bianca Belair of real life, and you want to be the fattest, you live life like Yokozuna.
Is that with a PH or with an F?
It's both.
Ooh.
As for what happened next to the Deadman, well, a lot of people say the only two things you can't escape in life are death and taxes, but rarely do we get to see these two things collide. See what I've done there?
You look so
You don't need to laugh.
And rightly
it's
so.
fine. That is a
That was
story
excellent.
for another Undertaking. There we go.
Lovely stuff. Let's have a break, and then we'll come back.
And Ripley, oh, backdrop, spine first on the hardest part of the ring.
Okay, there you go. Thank you so much, Sam. Another fantastic Undertaking. 2 more matches along the road. What percentage of his career have we covered now?
About 2.
We're probably about 10% now, aren't we? Something like that.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. And I always had a bit of a thing. Well, no, I was about to say I had a bit of a thing for IRS, but I enjoyed his gimmick. And
Can we go back to that? That's kind of interesting.
It's just that office look. No. So yeah, looking forward to that. Obviously, that episode will come up. Don't know.
Fairly soonish. We've got
fairly soon
plans in place for another Undertaking soon.
Yeah. Next podcast, however, will be a pay-per-view review, which will be the first pay-per-view review of the year proper. And it's going to be AEW Revolution, which I think we're all looking forward to.
Yeah.
That is coming up. So obviously next episode is in 2 weeks. Any particular sort of storylines we're excited about in AEW at the moment, looking forward to for that pay-per-view, Sam? I know you're watching it still regularly.
Anything that's involving Kenny Omega at the moment is just on fire. So
yeah. I mean, you'd imagine there'll be something big will happen there. Maybe somebody else from New Japan might come over, or just more of the Kenta stuff. But I'm excited to see it. I haven't been watching an awful lot of it, but I've been reading about it and seeing some clips, and they're doing some cool stuff.
It's on fire.
They're doing that cool little women's tournament as well, isn't it? Like USA versus Japan.
Women's tournament is amazing. They've got one of my favourite Japanese women's wrestlers in there, Maki Ito. That girl is crazy, and if you guys get a chance, have a look at her Twitter, because she's bonkers.
Okay, nice little tip there at the end. If people want to look at our Twitter, what is it, Brett?
Well, I'm going to do the email first
because I'm hard programmed.
I don't want to break tradition, and you just throw me
Fuck's
with
sake,
a
Brett.
curveball like Twitter first. Fucking hell!
I know.
People can send their emails, or they can email us to find out what our Twitter is. Send them to hardestpartofthering@gmail.com. Otherwise, they can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We are at Hardest Part Pod.
So conditioned, amazing. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna word that differently every time from now on.
To mess with me.
Try and catch you out. All right. Well, thank you very much to everybody for listening. Thank you again to the Undertaker for having such a long and varied and storied career with so many great opponents. Thank you to Sam for doing most of the legwork and teeing this up for us.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you to John for continuing to be a great podcast pal.
Contributor.
Adam, I don't feel forced.
Podcast pal.
Yeah.
And thanks to Brett for being amazing and coping with whatever's thrown at him.
For turning up.
Spreadsheets and all.
And that was the hardest part of the ring.
That is the hardest part of that ring.